Hey everybody, so one of my beautiful young clients, Ethelyn, asked me to make a German chocolate cake so she can surprise her husband with it. So we're doing this on the fly, haven't made this before, and hopefully it comes out great. So what we're gonna do first is, I've got my mixing bowl. We're gonna start and mix the dry ingredients first. So I have 2.5 cups of almond flour. We're gonna throw that in there. I have a 1/2 cup of coconut flour. We'll throw that in there as well. In my little concoction here, I have 2 tablespoons of baking powder, 1 tablespoon of baking soda, and I have a 1/2 teaspoon of Himalayan pink salt, because that's the only salt I have. We're gonna throw that in there. Let's mix that up a little bit. I have 1 cup of Hershey's cocoa powder, and we'll try and go easy on this one. And you can kind of see, I'll bring you in here, take a look at it, what it looks like. So that's our dry ingredients. We've got that part done. In the meantime, I've set my oven at 350. And I have 2 pie tins. We're gonna make a double layer German chocolate cake for her today. So I put a little parchment paper on the bottom, grease the outside. That's our dry ingredients. So now we're gonna mix the wet ingredients together, but we're actually gonna dissolve the allulose in with the butter. So I've got 1 stick, see if you can see it there. It's 1 stick of butter, grass-fed if you like. And then I have 2 cups of allulose. We're gonna add that in there. Get all that out. And we're gonna melt that down. You can see, it'll kind of be sticky, thick at first, but as the allulose heats up, it'll start thinning out. We'll let that cook for a minute. We'll turn that flame up a little bit. So you can kind of see how it's really thick right now. We'll heat that up. The thing I like about allulose is it works just like sugar. So making caramels and things like that, it works out really good for it. And you can see it's starting to melt a little bit, incorporate, and it'll kind of get caramely almost. So if you can see that, let me bring this down a little bit. So if you can see that consistency that that's making, we're gonna let it go just a little bit more and melt that, incorporate it really well. Keep stirring. You want to keep it incorporated. You want the butter to separate out. So as you can see it now, very different. Looks kind of like a white caramel. So that's going to incorporate that allulose down. It's going to be caramely. You're not going to get a gritty texture to it. Next, we're going to take a 1/2 cup of 0 carb heavy cream and add that in. Mix that up and turn the heat down a little bit. All right. And then in here, I have 2 teaspoons of apple cider vinegar. And I also have 3 tablespoons of vanilla. And I always use pure vanilla, no need for imitation. So we're gonna throw that in there. Do that. And now we have, as you can see, it's still pretty thin, but it's a nice mixture of the sugar, and it's just gonna really... Okay, so we have our dry ingredients that are all mixed, and we're gonna slowly add our liquid mixture to it. Put it on slow. I wanted you to be able to see what the mixture looks like. And let me scrape this, get all that goodness in it. All right, let me bring this down for you, kind of see what's going on in there. So anytime I do something like this, I always scrape it, but you can kind of see it's getting a nice consistency to it. All right. Now we're gonna add the eggs in. So we'll do one at a time. It's a total of 6 eggs. There's 1. There's 2. There's 3. 4. Mix it up a little bit. 5. And 6. Make a little room here. I've got my 2 pans ready to go. Didn't turn off all the way. My mistake. All right. So we're gonna scrape that paddle off nice and good. I always like to scrape it even with the mixing bowl, just to make sure we have everything incorporated. And kind of show you what that batter is looking like consistency-wise. And we're gonna pour some in. Let me do this. Let me move the mixer out of the way. And we'll get our other pan out. Fill that up. I'm just trying to get it even. It doesn't have to be exact. If one side's a little bit higher, I don't think anybody's gonna care. Smells really good. And you can see by the consistency of it, it looks like a good chocolate cake. So I pretty much have all that out. So you can see we've got both cake batters there. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna bake it for 350 degrees for 30-35 minutes. You guys, you're all old bakers. You know to do the little fork trick. Okay, so now the most important part of a German chocolate cake is the frosting. So what I've got is can't see my stick of butter in there. I've got 1 stick of butter in there melting. I'm going to add 1 cup of 0 carb heavy cream. I have 3 egg yolks. Drop that in. And then I've got 1 cup of allulose sweetener. We're gonna mix that in. And we wanna mix that up really well. Break the sugar up, and we wanna incorporate the eggs in it right away before it starts heating, because scrambled eggs on German chocolate cake doesn't go really well. Never had it, but don't think so either. So as you can see, as it's cooking, turn that heat up a little bit. So we're gonna cook this for about 5 minutes. Just keep mixing it until it gets nice and thick. And then we're gonna be throwing in 1 cup of shredded coconut unsweetened and 1 cup of toasted almond pieces. So we're gonna cook this a little bit and let it finish. And we're also gonna check on how our cakes are doing, because they should be done in a minute. So as you can kind of see, it'll thicken up, start bubbling. I'm gonna turn it off from the heat now. You can kind of see kind of loose caramely looking. So we have our pure vanilla. We're gonna throw 1 teaspoon, I keep saying tablespoon, 1 teaspoon of that in. Throw that in, mix it up really good. I have 1 cup of unsweetened shredded coconut. Mix that up in. And then I have some pecans that I roasted. They're chopped pecans, and I put them in 350 for about 7-8 minutes. It just brings the flavor and the oils out of them. Can you see that? See that? All right. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna let this cool. It's gonna take a little while. Once it's cool, we're gonna go ahead and make the cakes. I already pulled the cakes out. They look beautiful. And we'll see how this turns out. Okay, so we let our icing, you can kind of see it there, cool down, and we're ready to go. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do my bottom piece of the cake. You can see, came out nice, beautiful. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna take a little bit of the top off, just so it sits flat. We'll eat this later. So I have my little fancy cake pan there. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take some frosting and we're gonna spread that around nice, get it to the edges. As you can see, do a little bit more. This is the good part. You can hear my dogs barking in the background. I'm sure you can too. Just gonna clean it up, get to the edges like so. All right, evidently the dog's not filming. Now we're gonna take our top piece, set it on top like so, push it down a little bit. Just gonna take my tool and go around. Fill that in, it looks actually nicer right there. So as you can see that, now we're gonna frost our top. And this is really good. Listening to it. One thing that I did is the coconut was more of a finer chopped. I mean, I like the flavor of coconut, but I'm not a big coconut fan. So it just seemed kind of nice that way. If you're frosting, if you leave it in the fridge and it gets too hard on you, just microwave it for a second, kind of mix it up. And we'll finish it up this way. Let me be the first to wish Ethelyn's husband a happy birthday, since I'm making this for her. Well, she won't get to eat it, but I'm sure she appreciates the effort and the thought. So, what do you think?